Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Dave Davis with Your Money Matters.
Hey everybody, Dave Davis back with you here on our News on 6 digital studio. This is a newer format, and if this is your first time or this is your second, third time, welcome. We've done sports here, we've done weather here, and I have these special financial segments for you. We try to do them every Monday as our goal, and we'll have different experts from around the country, even here in Tulsa too, to talk about issues that are relevant to you. There's a lot of big things going on with the economy and things you have to have a degree to understand, but there's also a lot of elements that are just, I think, really relatable right now with the way money is tight for a lot of folks, and everybody needs more money, wants to know how to spend it and where to go, and there's a lot of things pulling at our attention, and especially I think for young people. So joining me today is Rod Griffin from Experian. He's going to be talking to us about what to do with your first paycheck. Good morning, Rod.
Morning, Dave. How are you?
Great. I'm doing really well. So Rod, there's a lot of things pulling at our attention, and especially if you're a teenager, if it's your first job, maybe you're starting college and it's maybe your second job, but we're talking about so many areas and so many things that are pulling at our attention. How do we make sense of making sure our money goes where it should go and ends up in the right places?
Yeah, sure. It can be really hard today, and there's a lot of information coming from a lot of different sources. For example, we know that 70% of Gen Zers, those who are just getting into the workforce in a lot of cases, have followed financial trends from online influencers. So social media is playing a big part in that money decision-making process. And that can be challenging because there's great social media influencers out there that have wonderful advice. There are others who are well-intended, but maybe not as well-informed. And then there are a number of them who would take advantage of you, and especially if you're new to the money world. So trying to figure out where to go and how to get good information is really important. And one of the things we always suggest is go to organizations that you know and that you can trust. Experian, of course, being one of them. We've been around for 100 years, and we have oversight. We have an obligation to make sure information is accurate. So go to sources that you know you can trust. One of our goals is to be thought of as a person's BFF, their big financial friend throughout life, and to help them with more than just their credit. I think that's really important. Credit's a place to start, but there's so much more to finance than that.
Yeah, I've been seeing those BFF commercials.
Yeah.
Rod, it's interesting too because they just ran a report on CBS News this morning. AI influencers, deepfake influencers. So sometimes it's interesting. You're seeing this, financial advice, travel advice. And at this point in our technology evolution, some of this, you don't even know if these people are real in some cases. It was just on the news this morning.
True. Yeah, very true. And again, that's why we suggest if you see something or hear something, go to a source that gives you, that you can trust, a secondary source. So visiting someone like Experian, if you hear something about credit, or if you're trying to shop for better auto insurance rates, believe it or not, we can help you find lower insurance rates. We can help you with subscription management. We can help you with their personal finances. So go to a second source. Make sure that what that other source says is consistent. If it's not, maybe something to think about, and maybe reconsider the advice that's been given.
Okay, so I want to start off with teenagers and our first paycheck. I remember my first paycheck, obviously our first job, very memorable, but starting off on the right foot. So for you, what are the things in your opinion that teenagers and young people need to be thinking about what to do with that first paycheck?
That very first paycheck. Well, the shock, if you were like me, is you got the first paycheck and then you went, wait, where's the rest of it? Because there was so much taken out. So learning about taxes, the other kinds of things that you have to pay is really important that come out of that check first. From there, if you're a young adult, I would start with the whole idea of a spending plan or budget. Sometimes you don't like that word, but knowing where your money's coming from, knowing where it's going to is going to be really important. Think about starting a credit history early, because that credit history is going to be really important as you go forward. People think about credit reports as being related to getting a credit card or a car or a mortgage, but today it also plays a part in things like leasing an apartment or getting a cell phone that we all have, or connecting your utility service, potentially even getting a job. Your credit scores don't. I always stress that. Credit scores aren't used by employers, but your credit history might play a part. So start with a small credit card or small loan, make the payments on time, build that credit history because it's going to be there to work for you. So really important to think about that and start saving. Think about the long term, which is really hard to do. I have grandkids, 21-year-old grandson. He just got married, and you're talking to him about retirement is this totally strange thing for him because it's so far away, but it really isn't. So if you can take advantage of savings plans at your employer, for example, if it's a 401k match, don't give up that free money. I think those things are really going to be important.
And for those parents who are like, oh gosh, I don't know about a credit card, like my 16-year-old, I don't know what they're going to do with it, and like building a credit history versus like, I don't want to open a credit card for my 16-year-old. How do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, so what I often recommend is with a parent, think about either a secured card for your child, so it's tied to a savings account, so you start to build savings, and their spending can be somewhat limited, so that gives you some control. Or add them as an authorized user to a credit card that you have. What you don't realize is, as a parent, you don't have to give them the card that way. So you can use it as a teaching moment. That authorized user account will appear in their credit history, help them establish credit. If you are unable to make payments on time, that authorized user is pretty safe because we'll take that off of the credit report. They're not responsible for the debt. You would still have to pay it, still be on your credit history, but you would have some control, and you can use it as a teachable moment. Go with them, let them use the card, but then talk to them about how they make those decisions. Sit down at the end of the month, walk through the billing statement and say, here's how this works. And by the way, it's not free money. That paycheck you just got that was missing some of the money because the government took it, also gets to go to that debt when you pay it. So, be thinking about how that works.
What are some other financial pitfalls, some common financial pitfalls for our teenagers? As I know, it's so early, we don't have life experience. And, quite honestly, some people don't have that parental guidance or that guardian guidance where, you're trying to do the right thing financially. It's just like, I don't know what to do. I'm 16, like I was in diapers 13 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, what are some of those common financial pitfalls?
Yeah. Well, I always, kind of half jokingly say my parents' lesson for me from credit was and money was my mom thought credit was a gift from God. My dad thought it was evil. It's really neither of those things. Came to find out later. So, it's about making good decisions. It's about sharing how to make those decisions. And the sooner you learn, and if your parents can help, great. If your schools are offering financial education courses, take them. The common pitfalls, impulse buying, huge issue, probably the most important, especially if you have a credit card. It's very easy to swipe that card, make the charge, and then at the end of the month, have a great big bill and not even remember what you bought because it was just stuff. So have a plan. I think that's a huge problem. People don't have a plan for how they spend. You fall into the impulse buying trap. If you are going to college, you're likely going to have student loans. That was my plan going to school. It took me 15 years to pay them off, but you have to realize that's going to impact your credit history. It's going to impact your future buying power. It might help you if you're paying them on time, but if you use those loans for things that you really maybe didn't need them for, take on too much debt, it can be a big problem. So think about those kinds of issues. And again, start thinking ahead. How do you set aside an emergency savings fund? Even just a little bit is going to be really important. I had a truck and I had 4 flat tires at the same time. Thankfully, had a savings fund, able to take care of that and get home. And you wouldn't have thought about that. Doesn't have to be big, but people don't think about those sorts of things.
In your emergency savings fund, we're talking about what would you recommend? 3 months expenses, 6 months expenses? And expenses include basically everything you need to keep the lights on, to keep the water running, and to keep your bills paid.
Right, and it's usually what the recommendation is 3 to 6 months. I always tell people whatever you can do initially. So start small. We keep $1,000 in our I'm old, so in our checking account when we started that process, we just zeroed out our checking account when we got to $1,000, like we didn't have anything. So it's always there. That's very powerful. Like I said, covered the cost of my tires. It doesn't have to be a lot, but once you get started, it gets easier. And 3 to 6 months will give you a lot of confidence and comfort.
Yeah, anything is better than nothing. When we're talking about specifically retirement, because you mentioned this, communicating to a 16, 17-year-old about a retirement. I know when I was that age, which wasn't as long ago as I'd like to think, 16 to 17 years old, retirement, it might as well be Narnia. It's just like, it's so far off, somewhere in Netherland. I'm so young, my whole life's ahead of me. But like even just $50 a month with compound interest, if you start at 16, we're really talking about a little bit can go a long way if you're going to work until you're 55, 60, right?
Or 65 or 70, absolutely. It's like retirement's in a galaxy far, far away. Continue to movie analogies.
Yeah, let's keep going
young
with it.
people,
Yeah.
So it's, but what they often don't realize is if you're in a pre-tax plan, like a 401k plan, and the company offers a match, you can deduct pre-tax the amount up to the match, and it won't affect your take-home pay because it reduces the taxable amount, and so it's offsets essentially. So contributing to a retirement plan, if it's a 4% match and you contribute 4% of your salary, that means you get 8% of your income toward retirement, and it won't affect your take-home pay, or would very minimally. So it's another one of those things that with money, in my experience, if you can, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So make automatic deposits, make automatic contributions. Those sorts of things will help you over time be more financially healthy and financially successful.
Yeah, 100%. It's great advice. Rod, any last words? This is Rod Griffin once again, if you're just joining us in from Experian, talking about that first paycheck. And Rod, any last words of just those first steps and the importance of that first paycheck?
Yeah, check your credit report. If you don't have one, establish a credit history. Which if you have a loan or credit card, that will happen. Know what's in that credit report. I think this is true for everyone. Often people tell me they're afraid to check their report. You shouldn't be. It's free. If you go to annualcreditreport.com, you can get one once a week from the three bureaus. It's 156 a year. Shouldn't need to check them that often, but you can. So know what's in your credit report. It can help protect you from fraud, help you recover from identity theft, let you know exactly where your money is going and where your debts are. And we can help you with lots of other things associated with that. Like if you have insurance needs, if you go to Experian.com, we can help you identify as much as $800 a year in insurance savings. We can help you reduce other costs. So, think of Experian as your big financial friend, your BFF, not quite the same thing as your best friend forever, but maybe in a financial sense we could be.
Rod Griffin with Experian, thank you so much for all of this great information. This is going to be up on newson6.com. That's maybe where you're watching us right now. We're going to put it up on YouTube as well. Rod, thank you for your time this morning.
Great. Thank you so much.
And so there you have it. Rod Griffin from Experian joining us today to talk about that first paycheck and how important that is. And yeah, that was really interesting. I referred to it in my initial question, but you talk about a report that I just read this week where $50 a month as a 16-year-old can turn into $1 million down the road, depending on how long you work. It's a $50 commitment a month starting when you're 16, but because of compound interest, it's amazing what that can do. And another note about some of these retirement accounts and a savings account, if you are under 18, and if you're a parent or a guardian watching this, if you're under 18, you may have to have a custodial sign off on it. So you may have to have an adult help you open some of these accounts, depending on the bank, depending on the account. So just be aware of that. You can't necessarily just open up a savings account by yourself all the time as an 18-year-old. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And same thing with like a Roth IRA. Some experts will say that you're going to have a sign off on that if you're under 18, but it's all worth it. And that's what we were talking about. All of these little steps that are going to be worth it. So taxes, as Rod just mentioned, take a huge portion of your first paycheck, and you found that out. If you haven't by now, they do. But even the additional things on top of that, just that little, again, $50 per month. So that's like really $25 a paycheck. It won't make that big of a difference in your take-home pay and being able to live your lifestyle, but it could make a difference down the road when you're talking about 40 years or more of your working life left. So Rod, again, thank you from Experian. We appreciate that. My name is Dave Davis. We're here at our digital desk. We're going to have another great guest back for you here on July 7th. But until then, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again on newson6.com and YouTube as well. Of course, My normal job too, 6 in the morning, Monday through Friday. We'll see you then.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's own digital studio stream. Stay with News on 6 online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.